It's been a bit of a shock, however much one tries to prepare oneself.
Few areas of the kingdom which are least likely to have any connection with the crown, and yet there are some surprising associations.
Prince Edward has left Buckingham Palace, and the full story remains a mystery. Did King Charles do something so significant that Edward, the calm and steady one in the family, finally had enough? His departure hints at frustration with royal rules and family drama, leading many to question whether this marks the beginning of a larger royal fallout. Edward's unexpected move has caught everyone off guard and could potentially shake up the monarchy. Known for his quiet but bold nature, Edward has always stood apart from his family. Born in 1964, Edward grew up in the same luxurious royal bubble as his siblings, but was never quite like them. Charles, destined to be king, has always been focused on duty, tradition, and preparing for the throne. Andrew, on the other hand, has often made headlines for reasons the royal family would rather forget. Edward, however, has followed a distinctly different path. He's not the headline-grabbing type like some of his family members, but he's also not the quintessential rule-following royal. Instead, he occupies a unique space, standing out as an oddball in the royal lineup. One of his decisions, a quiet yet defiant choice, redefined not only his life, but also the broader perception of what it means to be royal. Unlike his brothers, Edward showed little interest in adhering to traditional royal expectations. He never sought the spotlight, nor aspired to be the family's golden child. Instead, he seemed determined to pursue what genuinely made him happy, even if it didn't align with the royal mold. His interests spanned academics, theater, and television production, paths that might seem ordinary to most people but were highly unconventional for a royal. This divergence from tradition is what makes Edward so intriguing. He didn't follow the script handed to him, but wrote his own, even if it puzzled others. Edward's ventures into the arts were especially noteworthy. He worked backstage on musicals such as The Phantom of the Opera, setting up props and contributing behind the scenes. Imagine a royal engaging in such work. It's far from the typical image of monarchy. Yet Edward deserves credit for following his passions instead of succumbing to expectations. Still, the royal family likely raised eyebrows, wondering why a royal would choose such an unconventional path. It was a bold, slightly random move, and it was quintessentially Edward. Perhaps most striking was Edward's foray into television. This ambitious chapter of his life stood out starkly from the usual royal narrative. It was an endeavor that, much like the rest of his choices, defied expectations and highlighted his willingness to carve out his own identity. In the 1990s, Edward ventured into the world of television production by establishing his own company, Arden Productions. At first glance, it appeared to be a daring and innovative move for a member of the royal family, a break from tradition that highlighted his willingness to forge a unique path. While most royals were content with ceremonial duties such as waving to crowds, attending charity events, and unveiling plaques, Edward sought to leave his mark in a more creative and unconventional way. Unfortunately, the reality did not align with the dream. Arden Productions struggled to gain a foothold in the highly competitive television industry. The shows it produced were met with lukewarm receptions at best, with critics dismissing them as uninspired and lacking the polish needed to stand out. The media, ever eager to highlight royal missteps, seized on the company's failings, turning Edward's endeavor into a cautionary tale of overreach. Headlines gleefully chronicled every stumble, and the venture quickly became a subject of public mockery. This was a painful period for Edward, who had genuinely hoped to succeed on his own terms. Watching his efforts falter under the weight of criticism and scrutiny must have been disheartening. Yet, there was something admirable in his willingness to take such a risk. Most royals might have been content to remain within the comfortable confines of tradition, avoiding the kind of public scrutiny that comes with creative pursuits. Edward's attempt, however flawed, was a testament to his desire to be more than just a ceremonial figure. During his 20s, Edward had also ventured into the military. He gave the Royal Marines a try, but it didn't take long for him to realize that it wasn't for him. After enduring a few months of grueling training, he decided to walk away. This decision reportedly left his father, Prince Philip, a staunch military man, fuming. It wasn't exactly a proud family moment. Imagine a strict, disciplined parent finding out you quit something as rigorous as the Marines. The press had a field day, labeling Edward as soft and claiming he couldn't cut it. While the criticism was harsh, it perhaps overlooked the bigger picture. Edward recognized early on that military life was not for him, and instead of sticking it out to satisfy others' expectations, he made the tough choice to leave. It was a bold move, one that demonstrated his commitment to following his instincts rather than conforming to a predefined role. This decision, as controversial as it was, set the tone for his life. Edward has consistently played by his own rules, even if it has meant disappointing a few people or enduring public backlash, an approach that, in its own way, is admirable. Today, Edward has kept a relatively low profile compared to the rest of the royal family. He has focused on meaningful efforts such as supporting his father's Duke of Edinburgh's award and contributing to various charitable initiatives. Despite their ups and downs, his journey reflects a willingness to chart his own course, even in the face of challenges and criticism. Prince Edward has been married to Sophie, the Duchess of Edinburgh, for many years, and they appear to be a solid, drama-free couple quietly going about their lives. However, it raises the question, could Edward be ready to step away from the royal grind for good? If he is indeed stepping back, it might be because he's grown weary of living in the shadow of others within the royal family. Perhaps he's even looking at Harry and Meghan's decision to leave and thinking, they got out and seemed fine, so why not me? While no one can say for sure, Edward has always been about carving his own path, even if it's unconventional or doesn't align with what others expect. If he is choosing to walk away from royal duties, good for him. It's his life, after all. Let's not forget that royal life, despite its glamour, doesn't look like an easy ride. In the present day, Prince Edward is back in the headlines, and it seems Buckingham Palace is no longer his primary residence. Yes, he's packed his bags, but the exact reasons remain unclear. Speculation abounds, with some suggesting it's a subtle way of expressing dissatisfaction with the current state of affairs under King Charles III. Others believe he simply wants a peaceful life away from the drama. Edward now spends his time at Bagshot Park, the countryside estate he shares with Sophie. Together, they are the unassuming, steady presence in the royal family. No scandals, no sensational headlines, just calm and consistent vibes. Unlike some members of the family who appear to thrive on controversy, Edward and Sophie maintain a low-key existence. This shift away from Buckingham Palace isn't a dramatic, headline-grabbing departure filled with accusations. Instead, it's a quiet decision to live life on their own terms. Even without the spectacle, the move speaks volumes about their desire for autonomy and tranquility. It's still a big deal. Royal watchers are losing their minds trying to figure out what this means. Here's the thing, though. This isn't the first time a royal has bailed on palace life. Remember Harry and Meghan? Their exit was like a full-blown soap opera. Edward's move, however, feels more like a carefully planned soft launch into a new chapter. He's not flipping tables or dropping bombshell interviews. He's just quietly stepping away, like a polite rebel. It's almost as if he's saying, I'm going to do this my way, thanks very much. Then there's Bagshot Park. If Buckingham Palace is all about glitter, gold, and non-stop cameras, Bagshot Park is the total opposite. Tucked away in the peaceful countryside, it's where Edward and Sophie have built their little slice of normal. Well, as normal as it gets when you're royal. It's not just a house, it's their sanctuary. They put their focus on raising their kids and handling royal duties on their own terms. No fancy palace staff or endless royal events, just a quieter, simpler life. The move speaks volumes about who Edward and Sophie are. They are not about flashy headlines or breaking royal rules in the most dramatic way possible. They're about steady change, about finding a balance between duty and personal happiness. Happiness. Sure, they are still royals, but maybe they are showing the world there's a different way to live that role. A way that doesn't involve living under the palace's spotlight 24/7. Meanwhile, King Charles is on a mission, a big one, to slim down the monarchy. Think fewer royals, less spending, and a more modern, no-frills version of what it means to wear a crown. Could Edward's move be part of this master plan? It's certainly possible. Charles has been pretty clear about his vision for the monarchy. fewer working royals, and even fewer people living off the royal dime. For someone like Edward, who's always been about doing his own thing, this might not even be a bad deal. It's like being told, hey, go focus on your family and hobbies without Buckingham Palace breathing down your neck. But not everyone is applauding Charles's big changes. The whole idea of a modern monarchy has sparked plenty of conversation. Critics argue that if you shrink the royal family too much, it risks losing some of its magic. They wonder, what's the point of a monarchy that isn't a little over the top? On the other hand, there are those who believe cutting back is a smart move. Who wants to fund a huge royal family in 2024? Edward's low-key exit only adds more fuel to this debate, as it seems he is quietly walking the line between keeping old traditions alive and moving forward. Here's the thing, though. He's not completely ditching his royal duties. No, he's simply redefining what those duties look like, and honestly, that feels very in line with the younger generation of royals. They're all about connecting with people in real ways, not just standing on balconies and waving. Edward's move shows that you can still be royal without living in the palace spotlight. It's like the monarchy is becoming a little more relatable and a little less untouchable. Moving away from the castle vibes and stepping away from the palace isn't just a simple house swap. It's loaded with meaning. Buckingham Palace has been the heart of the British monarchy for ages, so leaving it behind isn't just about moving furniture. It's about royals rethinking what their role means today. For Edward, this move isn't about turning his back on tradition. Instead, it's more about honoring his late parents, Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip, by keeping their values alive in his own quiet way. They would probably respect his determination to do things on his own terms. Let's not forget, though, that this decision is also about family. He's got 2 kids, Lady Louise Windsor and James, Viscount Severn, who are teenagers now. This likely means Edward is all about giving them as normal a life as possible. Well, as normal as it gets when you're royal. Moving away from the palace spotlight gives them a better chance to grow up grounded and less caught up in all the royal drama. It's like he's saying that being a good dad comes first, and honestly, that's a move more people should applaud. Edward's decision isn't just about making his life easier, though. It's also a reminder that even the most traditional institutions can change. The monarchy is facing all kinds of challenges, from public skepticism to questions about its place in the modern world. Edward stepping back shows that even royals understand the need to adapt in order to stay relevant. If that means swapping palace life for the calm of the countryside, so be it. Ultimately, it's about finding a way to balance tradition with today's reality, and that's a lesson many institutions could learn from. Edward's departure is happening at a particularly messy time for the royal family. Their reputation has been taking hit after hit, with scandals involving Prince Andrew and the ongoing fallout from Harry and Meghan's dramatic exit. It feels as though the House of Windsor is stuck in a never-ending PR nightmare, constantly scrambling to hold things together. But here's where Edward's story stands out. Unlike his brothers, he has mostly managed to steer clear of the tabloid mess. Notice that mostly, he's had his moments, but nothing that shattered headlines. Back in the day, Edward tried to juggle royal duties with a private career, and it didn't go smoothly. Do you remember his TV production company, Arden Productions? People weren't too impressed, and critics quickly accused him of using his royal connections to boost his business. The backlash was brutal. But despite these bumps in the road, Edward has managed to stay relatively drama-free compared to, say, Andrew, whose controversies have left a permanent stain on the family name. And that's the thing about Edward. He's not perfect, but he's reliable. Drag the monarchy through the mud, Edward's low-key vibe has actually helped hold it together. People see him as the dependable one, the guy who just gets on with things without stirring the pot. It's a reputation he's worked hard to build, and honestly, it's one the royal family desperately needs right now. The contrast between Edward and Andrew couldn't be more glaring. Andrew's headline-grabbing scandals have done serious damage, while Edward's quiet, steady approach makes him look like the adult in the room. It's as if he's figured out how to play the royal game without losing himself in it. Meanwhile, Andrew is certainly not winning any popularity contests. But Edward's secret weapon is Sophie, the Duchess of Edinburgh. Their relationship is one of the most solid aspects of the modern monarchy. No drama, no scandals, just a strong partnership that has stood the test of time. Together, they've built a life that balances public service with private happiness. A tough act to pull off when you're constantly under a royal microscope. They're like the monarchy's ultimate power couple, showing that teamwork and mutual support can actually work, even in the high-pressure world of royal life. Edward's steady approach isn't flashy, but it's effective. He's not trying to reinvent the monarchy or make a grand statement. He's just quietly doing his part and staying out of trouble. In a time when the royal family is desperately trying to prove it still matters, that kind of stability might just be what saves them. Edward isn't the loudest or the flashiest royal, but maybe that's exactly why he's one of the most important. So, what's next for him? Well, it looks like he's got a lot on his plate, and honestly, he's handling it like a pro. First off, he's all in on charity work, especially with the Duke of Edinburgh's award. This isn't just some side project for him. It's a big deal. His dad, Prince Philip, spent decades building this program, and now Edward's stepping up to keep the legacy alive. It's like he's saying, "I've got this, Dad," and honestly, he's doing a pretty solid job of making it his own thing, not just a copy-paste of what Philip did. But it's not just about work. He's also putting family front and center. His marriage to Sophie is like the rock-solid foundation of his life, and their kids, Louise and James, have been kept mostly out of the royal circus. Moving away from Buckingham Palace was probably the best thing he could do for them. It gives the whole family some much-needed privacy and a chance to just, be normal. Well, as normal as a royal family can get. And let's not forget his approach to family life, which feels like a nod to how he was raised. His parents, Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip, taught him the value of service and community, and you can see those lessons in how he's raising his own kids. It's not about the fancy titles or the big ceremonies. For Edward, it's about making a real difference. That's a pretty modern take on royal duty, and honestly, it's refreshing to see. But don't think he's just kicking back in the countryside. Nope, he's likely taking on even more royal responsibilities soon. King Charles is all about sharing the workload and making the monarchy more efficient, and Edward's reliability makes him the perfect guy for the job. He's not flashy, but he gets things done, and that's exactly what the family needs right now. Whether it's cutting ribbons, meeting people, or representing the royals at big events, Edward's got the experience to handle it all without breaking a sweat. This mix of tradition and forward thinking is exactly what the monarchy needs to stay relevant. Edward's finding that sweet spot between honoring the past and embracing the future, and it's working. He's showing that being royal isn't just about the fancy stuff. It's about real work and real connections. If he keeps this up, Edward might just become one of the most important royals of his generation. As we wrap up, here's the question. Is Prince Edward's quiet rebellion a step toward modernizing the monarchy, or is it a sign that the royal family is unraveling? Let us know your thoughts below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more.